ASL, otherwise known as American Sign Language, is a language all its own, with its own language rules and structure. ASL is most commonly and widely used by the deaf in the United States. ASL uses hand shapes, body language, and movement and expression to communicate ideas and thoughts. It does not use conjunctions, as C does, and often relies on implied transition rather than explicit. Users of ASL employ traditional syntax and signs. There are many pros and cons to using ASL. Firstly, the pros. The first pro would be that it preserves ASL and deaf culture. Secondly, it can aid deaf children in learning words and communicating with others. Finally, it's easier to read expression and interaction using ASL than any other sign system. There are, however, cons. The first con is that it's harder for other sign systems to use. The second is that it has limited translations. And finally, traditional signs, without the use of editing and substitution provided by Pidgin and C, often look very similar. Pidgin. This is a sign system that combines components of both straight SEE and strict ASL, switching between both word order, sign, facial expression, and sign choice. This system generally is spoken by past and current English speakers, and because of that, it has more SEE leanings than ASL. There are many pros and cons to using Pidgin. First, the pros. The first pro would be that Pidgin users are more adept at understanding both SEE and ASL speakers. The second pro would be that Pidgin signers are easier to understand amongst C and ASL users. Thirdly, it's easier to learn and has a larger range of language that can be used in both C and ASL translation. Next, the cons. The first con would be the loss of deaf and ASL culture. Secondly, it's irritating to traditional signers. And lastly, it causes more use of slang and home sign in day-to-day language. C, or Signed Exact English. This signing system uses an exact form of English, using English grammar, syntax, and word order. Oftentimes, users of C have signs that don't exist in ASL, or have altered traditional signs to fit the English vernacular. C includes transitions that aren't normally used in ASL or Pidgin, such as to, be, and, or. C is usually employed by the educational system and by those who have or will speak English. There are many pros and cons to using C as a sign system. First, the pros. The first pro is that it's easier for English speakers to use. The second is that both ASL and Pidgin signers can understand SEE signers most of the time. Finally, it aids others in becoming more proficient with the English language, one of the most widely spoken languages around the world, helping to communicate with a large portion of the Earth, or 508 million of its residents. However, there are cons. The first con is that it doesn't support deaf culture. The second is though it can be understood, C is often hard for ASL users to tolerate. And finally, it's harder to use facial expression and body language to convey meaning using SEE.